The American dream, this was the whole article, is OnlyFans a new American dream? The American dream was founded on liberty, not on licentiousness. And we don't have a good understanding of this because we don't have a good understanding of history. The Washington Post put out an article this week chronicling the rise of an OnlyFans empire by someone with the stage name Bryce Adams. We'll look at that article together. It says somewhere in Florida in the mornings, the workers of Bryce Adams' OnlyFans empire buzz in through a camera-wired security gate, roll up the winding driveway that costs $120,000 to pave and park outside Adams' $2.5 million home office studio complex. A large American flag waves from a pole above their office door. So does a banner depicting Adams in tight shorts from behind. On OnlyFans, subscribers pay for monthly access to feeds of creators' videos, many of them sex videos known as collabs, as well as pay-to-watch clips the fans can buy a la carte. And as one of the platform's most popular creators, Adams runs her business like a machine. Inside, a storyboard designer opens the day's publishing plans for not just OnlyFans, but all their customer feeder sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Editors start splicing video into short looping clips optimized for virality. Collabs are sent to paying fans. Brian Adam, Bryce's longtime boyfriend, stops at each employee's desk to review the day's assignments, vetoing any posts or captions that seem cringe or off-brand. In an office loft, 4 young women start texting with Adam's paid subscribers who talk about sex and their personal lives in conversations that often exceed 1,000 messages a day. This being a sex business, their workdays are filled with what others might see as debauchery.
Wow.
But which they see as just work. 2 or 3 people, here's just work. 2 or 3 people will slip into a bedroom next to the kitchen or the gym with a cameraman or just their cell phones to record a collab or start live streaming themselves, exercising in the nude. You know, just work, like the work that all of us do.
Wow.
So the whole point of this article is that OnlyFans has democratized the pornography industry, which of course is very problematic. And, you know, it's a feminist nightmare because it's the objectification of women and the people aren't really paid anything who are doing the work. And all the money goes to the people who own the big pornography sites. And so this is a way for people to take back their freedom. And you go through this and it's a heartbreaking article when it talks about, you know, these women who are like in college or working their way to a career opportunity, and someone comes along and goes, man, you're only making $20 an hour as a receptionist. You can make $500 an hour if you were willing to completely lay down your dignity and have sex with people on camera. And once again, we see that as this becomes this empire, if you pay attention in the article, the Adams are making millions of dollars off of this. They have 30-something employees, and it says proudly their payroll was almost $1 million last year. Well, if you do the math on that, that means that the people at the top of this pornography business are making tons of money, life-changing money, and everyone else throughout the organization is making barely minimum wage. And so again, we just repeat the same cycles all through here as it's talking about the American dream that is creating this big business out of selling sex on demand. You never hear anything about the ethics behind this or the potential morality behind this. The only time you see a hint of that is when their friends and family just can't understand because they're so outdated or religious. Of course, in scripture, we're told flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against their own body. The sexually immoral person sins against their own body. And of course, we're told that our bodies are the temple of God. Now, that is a prescription specifically to believers. However, it is not just people who are outside of the faith who struggle with this pornography industry. There are so many issues at play here, and one of the most significant ones is what it does to the degradation of the women who are actually involved in this. There was a clip that went viral of someone on a podcast interviewing a woman who's raking in, hundreds of thousands of dollars, selling her body on OnlyFans. And they said, well, what will you think someday when you settle down and have a family? And her answer is, how I'll explain this to my kid. They can cry about it in a Ferrari. So They might be ashamed of me, and all of their friends might be one click away from being able to find extremely graphic photos and videos of me. And it might absolutely humiliate my future kids. And anything you put on the internet lives forever and ever. But if my kid has a problem about it, then you know what? They can just cry about it in a Ferrari, because the one thing we know out of human experience is that money makes everything better.
Wow.
Except we actually know that that's completely the opposite of reality. And we see millionaires who take their own lives, and they have everything you could ever want. And they have all the power and all the status, and they have just full access to anything they want out of life. And they have people at their beck and call, and they have a whole line of people waiting to sexually gratify them, and they can buy anything that they want. And they're some of the most depressed people who exist on planet Earth. And you can go to a third world country where people have nothing and live on $1 a day, and you can see a joy exuding out of those people that you rarely catch a glimpse of in our very coddled Western society. Not only is this about what it is doing for women who are taking this route, and they see themselves as feminist icons, but you're just not. And the reality is this begins to rewire men's brains. And a lot of the issues in a culture that increasingly has problems with sexual assault and increasingly has problems with men who don't understand that no means no, but their brains are wired on something like OnlyFans, where you demand something of the woman on the other side of this digital exchange, and she does whatever you want. And, you know, these guys, they think that they're actually texting this OnlyFans star. What they're doing is they're texting women who are being paid pennies on the dollar compared to the actual woman who's going in front of the camera. They're pretending to be her. In some circumstances, it's men pretending to be the woman that you think that you're sexting with as you're watching her videos when you've never met her in real life. And they're just saying whatever you want them to say, and they're describing whatever you want them to describe. And as long as you're willing to pay, you can find someone on this site to do whatever you want them to do, however debased and vile it happens to be. And if you're told no, you're just a couple clicks away from somebody telling you yes. And this begins to wire young men's brains, and they get access to this at 18 years old, and their prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed until 25 years old. And so now it's being formed with all of this information coming in that you should be able to get whatever you want from women. And it hurts real women in the real world. And it hurts the men who are damaging their souls by taking part in this. And again, this is different than just pornography itself, which is also terrible. And everyone who says that pornography is a social good is completely ignoring the entire scientific literature around pornography and how devastating it is to you psychologically and neurologically. And any honest person who has studied this comes to that exact same conclusion. And yet the celebrity class and the corporate class and the influencers and the social media people, they're all trying to push this as a positive good, something that builds body positivity and gives you a release for your sexual desires that you may not have access to in the real world. People will say it's good for marriages. Well, we just know that is absolutely not the case. So it's bad for the women and it's terrible for the men. And what it creates in men is, number one, a very quick habitual process that borders on addiction itself. In Proverbs, it says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire and breaks out against all sound judgment. When a pornography addiction comes into a person's life, you will watch as they begin to lose their ambition, as their social skills begin to change, as they revert back into themselves. And if they are able to establish a romantic relationship, they have now gone to the point of objectification of women where they cannot see the person they're in a romantic relationship with accurate eyes. And if they are in something like OnlyFans, where there is interaction, the illusion of interaction and relationship, then they are used to over and over again, day after day after day, never being told no. C.S. Lewis said that self-oriented lust sends the man back into the prison of himself. there to keep a harem of imaginary brides. And among those shadowy brides, he is always adored. He's always the perfect lover. No demand is made on his unselfishness. No mortification ever imposed on his vanity. And in the end, they become merely the medium through which he increasingly adores himself. OnlyFans creates the illusion of relationship and the illusion of control. And this deception rewires the brain and creates dangerous expectations in the real world. Proverbs 14:8 says, "The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving." And this is what pornography does. It's a simulation. It is a deception, and it has real world consequences. It harms everyone involved. And this is often what people say about pornography is it's a victimless crime. You know, why should you even worry about it? It's a victimless crime. Nobody really gets hurt. But that is a worldview that completely ignores the metaphysical. That's a worldview that can only come from a humanist who only sees things in terms of the material world. Now, of course, we know in the material world, that's just not true either, because there is massive trafficking involved in the pornography industry. And we know that this OnlyFans marketplace, while it might be good for a time, it has existed for such a short time. We have yet to see the long-term effects of these women having these videos and pictures live on the internet into perpetuity, coming back to haunt them as they age out of a body that men are desperate to see all the time, and the money stops coming in and they need to get a job in the real world. And this all still exists online for them, and to haunt them and to haunt their future families if they have one, and to haunt their future children if they have them. And it damages men psychologically, neurologically, sociologically. It damages them in their relationships. And in the metaphysical realm, this damages the soul, and we should care about that. The American dream, this was the whole article, is OnlyFans a new American dream? The American dream was founded on liberty, not on licentiousness. And we don't have a good understanding of this because we don't have a good understanding of history. But prior to the Bill of Rights and prior to the freedoms that we are guaranteed, specifically in the First Amendment, which people leverage to say that we should just be able to have pornography all over the place and there should be like no structures guarding it at all. What people don't understand is there were precedents for those Bill of Rights, and we found them in the state constitutions and in the state's governing documents. And a majority of the original 13 colonies had language around the difference between liberty and licentiousness, and clear statements. Even in New York, in New Hampshire, and Maine, all of these had clear statements that we have the rights to liberty and to the rights to expression, but those are not to cross over to licentiousness, to intentional perverse acts and activity. And licentiousness is not something you can build a culture off of. And licentiousness is not something that you can build a dream off of. You can find success for some time, but ultimately that dream will devolve into a nightmare. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure you check out the full podcast and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content. You can also support the channel at patreon.com/Clayton Tyner. Link is in the description below.